Kuala Lumpur is the national capital and most populous global city in Malaysia. The city covers an area of 243 square kilometers and has an estimated population of 1.6 million as of 2010. Greater Kuala Lumpur, covering similar area as the Klang Valley, is an urban agglomeration of 7.5 million people as of 2012. It is among the fastest growing metropolitan regions in Southeast Asia, in terms of population and economy. Kuala Lumpur is the seat of the Parliament of Malaysia. The city was once home to the executive and judicial branches of the federal government, but they were moved to Putrajaya in early 1999. Some sections of the judiciary still remain in the capital city of Kuala Lumpur. The official residence of the Malaysian king, the Istana Negara, is also situated in Kuala Lumpur. Rated as an Alpha World City, Kuala Lumpur is the cultural, financial and economic center of Malaysia due to its position as the capital as well as being a key city. Kuala Lumpur was ranked 48th among global cities by Foreign Policy's 2010 Global Cities Index and was ranked 67th among global cities for economic and social innovation by the 2010 Innovation Cities Index in 2010. Kuala Lumpur is defined within the borders of the Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur and is one of 3 Malaysian federal territories. It is an enclave within the state of Selangor, on the central west coast of Peninsular Malaysia. Since the 1990s, the city has played host to many international sporting, political and cultural events including the 1998 Commonwealth Games and the Formula One Grand Prix. In addition, Kuala Lumpur is home to the tallest twin buildings in the world, the Petronas Twin Towers, which have become an iconic symbol of Malaysia's futuristic development. History. Kuala Lumpur means muddy confluence, although it is also possible that the name is a corrupted form of an earlier but now unidentifiable forgotten name. It was originally a small settlement of just a few houses at the confluence of Sungai Gombak and Sungai Klang. The town of Kuala Lumpur was established circa 1857, when the Malay chief of Klang, Raja Abdullah bin Raja Jafar, aided by his brother Raja Jumat of Lukut, raised funds to hire some Chinese miners from Lukut to open new tin mines here. The miners landed at Kuala Lumpur and continued their journey on foot to Ampang where the first mine was opened. Kuala Lumpur was the furthest point up the Klang River to which supplies could conveniently be brought by boat. It therefore became a collection and dispersal point serving the tin mines. The identity of the founder of Kuala Lumpur has however not been confirmed. Raja Abdullah bin Raja Jafar and his role in founding the city do not appear in the earliest account of the history of Selangor. On the other hand, the Sumatrans Abdullah Hukam and Sultan Puasa arrived in Kuala Lumpur at least in 1850. Raja Abdullah only came around 1857 and Yap Aloi, also regarded as the founding father of Kuala Lumpur, arrived in 1862. In addition, the Chinese men employed under Raja Abdullah worked in Ampang, 64 kilometers away from the mainland. Meanwhile, efficient drainage and irrigation systems were introduced in Kuala Lumpur by the technologically advanced Mandailing, improving the mining industry. In the early history of Kuala Lumpur, the Minangkabaus of Sumatra were considered to be one of the most important groups of people who involved in trading. Utsman bin Abdullah and Haji Muhammad Taib were influenced tycoon in Kuala Lumpur and surrounding area. Haji Taib, one of the wealthiest figure at that time, was an important person in the early development center of city Kampung Baru. Besides as merchants, the Minangkabaus also overwhelmingly on socio-religious figures, such as Utsman bin Abdullah was the first Qadi of Kuala Lumpur as well as Muhammad Nur bin Ismail. Although the early miners suffered a high death toll due to the malarial conditions of the jungle, the Ampang mines were successful, and the first tin was exported in 1859. The tin mining spurred the growth of the town, and miners later also settled in Pudu and Bachu. The miners formed gangs among themselves. There were the Hakka-dominated Haisan in Kuala Lumpur, and the Cantonese-dominated Gihin based in Kanching and Ulu Selangor. These two gangs frequently fought to gain control of best tin mines. The leaders of the Chinese community were conferred the title of Kapitan China by the Malay chief, and Hiu Su, the owner of a mine in Lukut, was chosen as the first Kapitan of Kuala Lumpur. As one of the first traders to arrive in Ampang, he sold provisions to the miners in exchange for tin. In 1868, Yap Ah Loy was appointed the third Chinese Kapitan of Kuala Lumpur. Yap, together with Frank Swettenham, were the two most important figures in the development of Kuala Lumpur in the early days of Kuala Lumpur. In 1880, the state capital of Selangor was moved from Klang to the more strategically advantageous Kuala Lumpur by the colonial administration, and Swettenham was appointed the resident in 1882. Kuala Lumpur was a small town with buildings made of wood and atip that were prone to burn. It suffered from many problems, including the Selangor Civil War which devastated the town. It was also plagued by diseases and constant fires and floods. The war and other setbacks led to a slump which lasted until 1879, when a rise in the price of tin allowed the town to recover. In 1881, a flood swept through the town, following a fire that had engulfed it earlier. As a response, Frank Swettenham, the British resident of Selangor, required that buildings be constructed of brick and tile. Hence, Kapitan Yap Ah Loy bought a sprawling piece of real estate to set up a brick industry, which spurred the rebuilding of Kuala Lumpur. This place is the eponymous brickfields. Hence, destroyed attic buildings were replaced with brick and tiled ones. He restructured the building layout of the city. Many of the new brick buildings mirrored those of shophouses in southern China, characterized by 5-foot ways, as well as skilled Chinese carpentry work. This resulted in a distinct eclectic shophouse architecture typical to this region. Kapitan Yap Ah Loy expanded road access in the city significantly, linking up tin mines with the city. These roads include the main arterial roads of the present Ampang Road, Pudu Road and Petaling Street. As Chinese Kapitan, he was vested with wide powers on par with Malay community leaders. He implemented law reforms and introduced new legal measures. He also presided over a small claims court. With a police force of 6, he was able to uphold the rule of law. He built a prison that could accommodate 60 prisoners at any time. Kapitan Yap Ah Loy also built Kuala Lumpur's first school and a major tapioca mill in Petaling Street, of which the Selangor's Sultan Abdul Samad had an interest. A railway line between Kuala Lumpur and Klang, initiated by Swettenham and completed in 1886, increased accessibility which resulted in the rapid growth of the town. The population grew from 4,500 in 1884 to 20,000 in 1890. As development intensified in the 1880s, it also put pressure on sanitation, waste disposal and other health issues. A sanitary board was created on 14 May 1890 which was responsible for sanitation, upkeep of roads, lighting of street and other functions. This would eventually become the Kuala Lumpur Municipal Council. Kuala Lumpur was only 0.65 square kilometers in 1895, but it expanded to 20 square kilometers in 1903. And by the time it became a municipality in 1948, it had expanded to 93 square kilometers, and then to 243 square kilometers in 1974 as a federal territory. In 1896, Kuala Lumpur was chosen as the capital of the newly formed Federated Malay States. a mixture of different communities settled in various sections of Kuala Lumpur. The Chinese mainly settled around the commercial center of Market Square, east of the Klang River, and towards Chinatown. The Malays, Indian Chettiars, and Indian Muslims resided along Java Street. The Padang, now known as Merdeka Square, was the center of the British administrative offices. During World War II, Kuala Lumpur was captured by the Imperial Japanese Army on the 11th of January 1942. They occupied the city until the 15th of August 1945, when the Commander-in-Chief of the Japanese 7th Area Army in Singapore and Malaysia, Seiichiro Itagaki, surrendered to the British administration following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Kuala Lumpur grew through the war, the rubber and tin commodity crashes and the Malayan emergency, during which Malaya was preoccupied with the communist insurgency. In 1957, the Federation of Malaya gained its independence from British rule. Kuala Lumpur remained the capital through the formation of Malaysia on 16 September 1963. On 13 May 1969, the worst race riots on record in Malaysia took place in Kuala Lumpur. The so-called 13th of May incident refers to the occurrence of violence between members of the Malay and the Chinese communities. The violence was the result of Malaysian Malays being dissatisfied with their socio-political status. The riots resulted in the deaths of 196 people, and led to major changes in the country's economic policy to promote and prioritize Malay economic development over that of the other ethnicities. Kuala Lumpur later achieved city status in 1972, becoming the first settlement in Malaysia to be granted the status after independence. Later, on 1 February 1974, Kuala Lumpur became a federal territory. Kuala Lumpur ceased to be the capital of Selangor in 1978 after the city of Shah Alam was declared a new state capital. On 14 May 1990, Kuala Lumpur celebrated 100 years of local council. The new federal territory, Kuala Lumpur flag and anthem were introduced. On 1 February 2001, Putrajaya was declared a federal territory, as well as the seat of the federal government. The administrative and judicial functions of the government were shifted from Kuala Lumpur to Putrajaya. Kuala Lumpur, however, still retained its legislative function, and remained the home of the Yang Di-Pertuanagong. Geography. The geography of Kuala Lumpur is characterized by the huge Klang Valley. The valley is bordered by the Titiwangsa Mountains in the east, several minor ranges in the north and the south, and the Strait of Malacca in the west. Kuala Lumpur is a Malay term that translates to muddy confluence, as it is located at the confluence of the Klang and Gombak rivers. Located in the center of Selangor State, Kuala Lumpur was previously under the rule of Selangor State government. In 1974, Kuala Lumpur was separated from Selangor to form the first federal territory governed directly by the Malaysian federal government. Its location on the west coast of Peninsular Malaysia, which has wider flat land than the east coast, has contributed to its faster development relative to other cities in Malaysia. The municipality of the city covers an area of 243 square kilometers, with an average elevation of 21.95 meters. Climate and weather protected by the Titiwangsa Mountains in the east and Indonesia's Sumatra Island in the west. Kuala Lumpur has a tropical rainforest climate, which is warm and sunny, along with abundant rainfall, especially during the northeast monsoon season from October to March. Temperatures tend to remain constant. Maximums hover between 32 and 33 degrees Celsius and have never exceeded 38.5 degrees Celsius. While minimums hover between 23.4 and 24.6 degrees Celsius and have never fallen below 14.4 degrees Celsius. Kuala Lumpur typically receives minimum 2,600 mm of rain annually. June and July are relatively dry, but even then rainfall typically exceeds 131 mm per month. Flooding is a frequent occurrence in Kuala Lumpur whenever there is a heavy downpour, especially in the city centre and downstream areas. Smoke from forest fires of nearby Sumatra sometimes cast a haze over the region. It is a major source of pollution in the city together with open burning, emission from motor vehicles and construction work. Cityscape. Governance. Kuala Lumpur was administered by a corporation sole called the Federal Capital Commissioner from 1 April 1961, until it was awarded city status in 1972, after which executive power transferred to the Lord Mayor. 9 mayors have been appointed since then. The current mayor is MHD Amin Nordin Abdulaziz, who has been in office since 18 July 2015. It is responsible for public health and sanitation, waste removal and management, town planning, environmental protection and building control, social and economic development, and general maintenance functions of urban infrastructure. Executive power lies with the mayor in the City Hall, who is appointed for 3 years by the Federal Territories Minister. This system of appointing the mayor has been in place ever since the local government elections were suspended in 1970. Districts. Kuala Lumpur's 11 districts serve as administrative subdivisions under the Kuala Lumpur City Hall Authority. 2 districts lie to the west are Segambut and Lembah Pantai, while Kepong, Batu and Wangsa Maju to the north, Setia Wangsa, Titiwangsa and Cheris to east, Sepita and Bandar Tuan Razak for the south, and Bukit Bintang in centralized Kuala Lumpur. Bukit Bintang, Titiwangsa, Setia Wangsa, Wangsa Maju, Central, Kepong, Segambut, Lembah Pantai, Sepita, Bandar Tun Razak, Cheris. Politics. Kuala Lumpur is home to the Parliament of Malaysia. The hierarchy of authority in Malaysia, in accordance with the federal constitution, has stipulated the 3 branches of the Malaysian government as consisting of the executive, judiciary and legislative branches. The parliament consists of the Dewan Negara and Dewan Rakyat.